You.
Great to be here.
Part two of our conversation on common mistakes made when filing your tax return. Now, last month we kind of hit about a half dozen or so of important points. Let's kind of recap some of those for our viewers. What tops your list for common
Incorrect
errors?
filing status. So what you see common error is mixing up head of household and single. So you have to make sure if you're taking care of a dependent and in that you're supporting that person is living in your house, likely you're a head of household as opposed to single.
Math errors.
That
can be as simple as putting the wrong information in or actually making an incorrect calculation. People also sometimes make a mistake even with their Social Security number.
Right.
Incorrect or missing forms and schedules. We talked about that.
Right. That's very common if you're doing it by hand. If you're using software, normally the software will pick up those missing schedules, but you got to make sure you at least sign the return.
That one always amazes me, the return not signed. You do all that work and forget to put your signature on it. Now, we also talked about claiming ineligible dependents. We also talked about failure to claim certain credits. This morning, I want to pick it up with the notion of failing to take into account new tax laws. Every year, there are subtle changes, and you have to factor those in, right?
Exactly. So this year's a good example where a lot of the Affordable Care Act rules came into play in 2013 when you're filing your 2013 now in 2014. So a lot of those rules are in play now, and you have to make sure you're aware of perhaps the higher tax rates those may bring with with the new tax law changes.
Domestic payroll taxes. What are we talking about here?
So if you have perhaps a nanny or perhaps a maid in your home, you need to file a certain schedule, Schedule H. And if you don't file that, that's going to cause a problem with the IRS. So you got to make sure you're filing that form just for domestic help.
Some folks with income that doesn't show up on a W-2 or 1099, you got to think about that. Remember
all income is taxable, all worldwide income, whether it's on a W-2 or 1099. So just because you did not get a form for it doesn't mean you don't include it on your tax return. You need to include that on there. So that would be a major mistake.
Even my Super Bowl squares, I'll keep that in mind. Not filing a return when due a refund, another one of those where it's sort of a missed opportunity there, right?
Right. You're giving the government money they don't really, you're letting them keep your money, the money you deserve back. I see that it's very common for actually college students. They might be below the standard deduction, $3,900, and this might be several $100s. That's a fair amount of money.
Let's have a look at the last 4 points. We're going to run through these quickly. Liability for alternative minimum tax.
Right, yes. When you go through all that calculation, and if IRS has this mean rule called AMT, if you meet that rule, you have to actually pay more tax, so make sure you're taking that into account.
We've got entering incorrect taxable Social Security benefits. You want to avoid that. Not itemizing, taking a standard deduction instead, when the itemizing could be more advantageous. Yep. And then the last one for New York State filers.
New York State has a little quirk in the rule. If you're using software and you have internet, you need to file your return electronically. New York does not like processing paper returns. They used to fine you $25. There was a little bit of an uproar with New York State. So now there's no $25 penalty, but you're still required to file electronically if you have the means and you're using software.
All right, Dave, all important advice here in the heart of tax season. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've got questions for Dave or any of our guests here on News 8 at Sunrise, just send them into the newsroom at rochesterhomepage.net. Allie?
All right, Mark, the time right now is 6:22. Still